I'm Evan Erickson. I'm our Director of Events and Partnerships here at Embarc, and I am so pleased that you guys are joining us for our Q4 Builder Series. The Builder Series by Embarc Collective is a quarterly educational program to provide you with unparalleled access to business icons and thought leaders, each sharing innovative leadership lessons and frameworks that have helped their success in their respective areas. We're particularly excited today because this morning marks an important transition in our organization's journey. We'll be joined by Tim Holcomb, our incoming CEO of Embarc Collective, in conversation with Lakshmi Shenoy, our founding CEO here at Embarc Collective. We'll hear the collaborative vision of these two CEOs as they navigate this pivotal handoff for our organization. Before we jump in, I wanted to draw your attention to the screens. We have a QR code here, and then we also will have them on the side TVs. They're scrolling throughout the entire program. You can scan that and submit a question, and this iPad up here will share those questions with Lakshmi and Tim. So during the ending period, they'll have some Q&A from you, the audience. So if you have any specific or burning questions for them, make sure you submit your question into Slido. Following our exciting program, we'll close out with a networking reception so you can connect with this great group of attendees, from everybody from startup builders to corporate leaders, students, and beyond. And next, it's my pleasure to introduce you to an entrepreneur building a bold, scalable, and thriving company right here at Embarc Collective. Mike McIntosh, founder and CEO of Hipster, is on a mission to change the game for photo booths, and I'll let him tell you more and introduce our panelists.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Is Mike on? Awesome. How are you guys feeling today? Awesome. As you guys have heard, my name is Mike McIntosh. I am a member here at Embarc Collective and a founder of a company called Hipster. Hipster is, we've essentially turned a service-based business into a marketplace in the events industry. If you guys want to learn more, feel free to go to our website, hipster.com, or feel free to just walk into our office. We're usually there Monday through Friday. I have the privilege today to introduce you guys to another Builder Series here at Embarc Collective. Builder Series for us is really an opportunity to give the public access to some of really the coolest business leaders kind of in the world. And we allow the public to be able to hear really the framework, tools, and the lessons that has led to their success. Today, I have the honor of introducing a super special guest for this Builder Series. Tim Holcomb actually comes from us from Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, where Tim has currently serves as both the professor and chair of their entrepreneurship program, which has been ranked by the Harvard Review as one of the top entrepreneurship programs in the world. They've actually been ranked number 7. Tim comes with a lot of experience. He has been a board member and advisor for dozens of companies. One of those companies is actually ReliaQuest, which this auditorium has been named after. Tim has worn many hats throughout the years, including being a founder. Tim's company successfully scaled and was acquired by a Fortune 500 company in 2001. My favorite hat that Tim is about to wear is becoming the next CEO of Embarc Collective. Everyone, please welcome Tim to the stage.
Thank you, Mike. Right. This is fun. All right. Well, this is a conversation we're gonna have today, because it's like, we've got two CEOs of Embarc Collective on stage. What are we gonna do?
We have 3 hours, right?
Yes, exactly. And by the end of this, we'll have our 5-year strategic plan mapped out for you. So Tim is negative 45 days until he actually starts in the job. So for anybody who's asking, what does the 5-year roadmap look like? give him a little bit of time. He hasn't even actually moved to Florida as of yet.
January 2nd?
Yeah. You have until January 2nd to have that roadmap in place. So we're different from some of the other builder series where if we have not met, I'm Lakshmi Shenoy. I'm the current CEO of Embarc Collective until December 31st. And then as of January 1st, we are very excited to welcome Tim Holcomb to be the next, I'll call myself the building CEO. I'll call you the growth CEO for Embarc Collective. And I think it's just a pleasure to be able to have a conversation like this. I also think it's very odd and fun, and it really speaks to Embarc Collective, the fact that the outgoing and the incoming CEO decide that, hey, let's do a public conversation together.
Well, I think I said this is the first job I've ever taken in my 40 years in work that I actually got to prepare for before I started. That's the awesome thing.
And he's doing a great job even before he's getting paid by Embarc Collective. So that bodes well for us as an organization. So let me tell you a little bit about how did we get here today. So many years ago, back in 2017, I got an email from a guy named Jeff Finnick, and he said, hey, we've met. Would you ever be interested in building a hub for Florida? And I honestly, the email came at probably 4 a.m, because anybody who has conversed with Jeff Vinnick knows that is the time that you would get an email. And I forwarded it to my now husband, and I said I probably should just say no, right? Like we were living our lives. There wasn't a real need for us to make some change. And it was him who said, at least hear him out and find out what's going on. And I learned about this amazing community, and I learned about a vision to build a hub. That was the long and short of the vision, though. It was just build a hub. And the understanding was, you know how to do that, go do that. And so early 2018 is when I made the move down here to Tampa Bay. And frankly, I just went on the ride of my life. Being a first time, I called myself a starter CEO. Now I'm a seasoned CEO, but I was a starter CEO. And we took this idea of build a hub, and we actually did it. So everything that you see today was not in existence before we actually turned it into reality. And we've had this amazing team and amazing startups that have joined in on the vision. Back in 2019, I would take people in a hard hat. Many of you were on those hard hat tours, and I was like, envision a hub, envision a place, a room filled with people where you're able to talk about what's happening in your business. And the fact that that's a reality is a really exciting thing. As the husband who said, take a chance on this opportunity, also was trying to recruit me to his company this whole time. And he says he's been recruiting me for a decade. And eventually I said, okay, finally it's time for me to join the family business. And so come January, I will join Spot My Photos, and maybe some of you have experienced it. Maybe you're experiencing it right now. But it's a platform that's around the world, and I'm really excited to join their team and go on their growth journey for a long-standing family business that I've been on the sidelines for a long, long time. So we, as an organization, are in a really excellent space and a really excellent place. We've seen the growth of Florida. We've seen the growth of the Tampa Bay region. We've seen success of startups that are building here. We're seeing that the impact of Embarc Collective. If you think back to 2019, to those first 25 companies who took a chance on a vision that we were pitching to them, if you fast forward 5 years later, you saw that 24 of the 25 companies that we started to work with were still operating 5 years later, surpassing the 50% survivability rating that is typical in the startup world. That is something significant when you can beat something not only by 5%, 10%, but how about beating it basically by 100%? That is the real meaning of impact for me. And people ask, why does survivability matter? And any entrepreneur would say, well, of course it matters, because things like funding or other sort of recognitions are just inputs. but it doesn't necessarily guarantee that the business is going to operate another day, delighting a customer, building jobs, allowing a community, a team to grow wealth and opportunity, and may honestly just make the world better. And that just doesn't happen. That's not granted. Every founder, and I don't care the scale of where you're at, has to work for that every single day. And so the founders who are a part of Embarc Collective, they're the, as Allie would say, they're the real ones. And they understand that surviving another day is the metric that matters the most. And if you can do that day after day, month after month, year after year, you're building something of real impact. So I answered the first question that you were saying.
Oh, no, you didn't.
But we tried to curate it, but then you get the two people who are passionate about building companies, and this just happens.
Let me take you back to the beginning. You know, it's one thing for Jeff Finnick to articulate a vision to create a startup hub that draws founders and startups into the Tampa Bay area. It's another thing to do it. When you think back to the early days, what problem were you solving for with Embarc?
So the problem that I was solving for with Embarc was creating support that created positive impact for the founder. I came in pretty jaded because I'd been in the startup community in other parts of the country. And all of these like rinse and repeat startup programs, at the end of the day, and I knew this because my husband is a startup founder, they were like sort of saying like, if you just go through this process, you will be successful. And it just didn't feel nuanced enough, and it didn't feel bespoke enough to speak to the actual needs that an entrepreneur has as they're trying to build a company day after day, month after month, year after year. And those needs change. And so I said, well, rather than having a founder have to adapt to a program, what would happen if a program adapted to a founder? And that bespokeness was the real essence of like my core hypothesis going in about what could make Embarc Collective not only different, but create impact for the world.
One of my favorite books is Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And if you've never read it, highly encourage you. You can get it on Amazon.
I think I have 15 copies in my office, so just grab it after. This is why we're a good pair here.
But there's a quote in there that struck me. You know, people don't go to Home Depot to buy a 2-inch drill bit. They go to Home Depot because they need a 2-inch hole. So what was your why? If you look at the last 7 years, what has been your purpose? What's driven the process, the team you put together, the programs you've created, and what keeps you up at night, and what puts you to sleep at night?
This is going to be real morbid, so apologies in advance. But I had accepted the job for Embarc Collective the day before my father passed away, and so right after I accepted the job, I was at my father's funeral. And nothing like a funeral to really remind you about what matters. And I was at my father's funeral. He was a scientist. And you just had all of these scientists talk about the impact that he made to make their career better, their work more important. And then it became very clear to me that we're all mortal. We will all die. And we have to make sure that we are helping each other and creating impact on each other. And so you can see that I really took that to heart in terms of building what became Embarc Collective, is that, you know, we are not guaranteed tomorrow. So let's make sure that the impact that we have today on each other matters to make each other's lives even better. Sorry to go to a funeral to give you my why, but you often think about, like, on your deathbed, what are you thinking about? And it's like, you're thinking about people.
Well, at the end of the day, impact is what matters, right? And I know it's easy to get, I call it the bright, shiny object approach. It's easy to admire things that you're doing and forget about the impact you're having. And one of the things that struck me with Embarc in this community here in Tampa Bay is the fact, and you quoted the survivability. It's tough. It's hard as heck to start a company, much less scale it and grow it. It's hard to get product market fit. It's hard to acquire customers. It's hard to deal with investors. It's hard, fill in the blank. But providing a safety net,
Yeah.
in effect, that it seems to me is what Embarc does. That creates the opportunity to make a real difference. And you strike me as somebody who really is driven by impact. That's pretty cool.
Impact and also to that point around that being able to be in a community that embraces what you learn about your business. I tend to shy away from failure, but it's really learnings, right? Today we were having a conversation and you mentioned the scientific method and I was like, oh my God, is Tim in my head? And it's pretty remarkable to go on this journey with so many entrepreneurs across Embarc Collective who are representing all different parts of the state and watch them learn about their business every single day, watch their business go from being so inside of them to being bigger than them and taking on a life of its own. Like that's a magical process and it's all about learning. I love that. Awesome. Well, we've talked a little more about the past than I'm comfortable with. Because if anybody spends time with me, they know that I, first of all, never look back. I'm always thinking about what's next. So let's talk about, this whole notion of passing the baton. And we've done something that I've never experienced, you've never experienced, where we said, like, hey, you want to come and hang out with us at Embarc Collective before you even started? And can I tell you everything about the business? And can I just make sure that you have the information that you need? And that's what we've been doing for the past 3 months. We've been in lockstep together. And I will say a couple of things about that experience is one, it's been really fun. It's like almost like I have a co-founder. It's really exciting. And two, it really reinforces our board's why of why did we pick you. It all is even more true than it was when we actually made the offer, because this is the most aligned person that I've met from keeping continuity of the Embarc Collective culture. Tim is an incredibly people first person. And that was very important to this organization in terms of a carry on of leadership. But you also have seen tremendous scale. And that is something that I was really excited about, and where I admittedly felt like I had a deficit, and I was like, well, where do we fill those gaps? You are filling those gaps. So talk to us a little bit about sort of your experience of just being early in this journey, negative day 45 on the job, and sort of what this transition has felt like for you.
Well, it haven't started yet, but I have, right? And I got to give a big shout out to Lakshmi and the team here of being so open and transparent and willing to give me some time and allow me to ask some really dumb questions. And Tim, you should already know the answer to that. So the transition, we're 2 months into it, the soft transition, I think is going incredibly well. I've had an opportunity, and we thought we would do this a month ago, and then Milton showed up and kind of canceled everything we had scheduled that week. So it's been good to engage. Scaling starting a company is hard. Scaling it's tough too. And I've mentioned this earlier when we were talking that the whole startup journey, and frankly, Embarc falls right in there. As you come up with a hypothesis or an assumption, I think this will work. And then you got to test it, and you either know it works or you darn sure don't do it again because it didn't work. And I've seen that in lots of different ways. I've seen it on the side of the table of having started a company. We went to Telecom Global. We went from a business plan to 300 employees in 14 countries, 44 engagements in 18 months. And then, as I like to say, the market always gets a vote. This would have been way back when, some of you are old enough to remember, when the dot-com bubble burst. And we made a move to sell the company, and we started the network services division at Flextronics, which was my 300 team members. 2 years later, we had 8,000 team members in 16 countries and about $1 billion run rate. So I get excited, not necessarily about doing things, but again, seeing things done and the impact it has. And I did this, getting involved with, getting exposed to the Tampa Bay community and more specifically to Embarc, all the things I heard are true. And it makes me even more excited about the opportunity to come here.
And I think there are a whole host of reasons why you are a great fit for this role. And one of them is that you've been an entrepreneur. You are an entrepreneur. You've also supported so many entrepreneurs in different ways. But I'm thinking specifically about some of your board experience, and you've got deep connections to ReliaQuest especially from the early days. So what has it been like to be alongside some of these companies as they have grown and really turned into high growth ventures?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll come back to ReliaQuest in just a minute, but it's easy to fall in love with a solution. I tell founders all the time, it's easy to fall in love with that. It's really, really hard to realize and recognize that you're the one that has to do something. And I used to, early in my post-startup career, easily fall in love with solution in the startup and lose sight that at the end of the day, it's the founder that matters. And I met Brian probably summer 2010 when I was at Florida State running the Jim Moran Institute. He's a Florida State grad, as he proudly admits. And I asked him to come up and join a panel for a program event much like this that we were holding in Tallahassee. And he invited me to come down. And at the time, ReliaQuest was a little smaller than they are today. But I met Brian, I met Colin O'Connor, I met Joe Partlow, I met Chris Ellett, and several other members of the team who are still there today. And the thing that attracted me to Brian attracts me now to startups is his passion. And I've had the opportunity over the last 10 or 11 years when my home in Cincinnati to connect with a number of founders, and I look very instinctively for that passion and purpose. And even today, if you sit down with Brian and hear him talk, frankly, about anything, he oozes passion and purpose. And you can say it's confidence, but confidence comes with a lot of wounds, a lot of scars. And so for me, the opportunity to work with a founder who's just willing to listen, to say, hey, that's a great idea, but I ain't going to do it. Fine. I've been told no many times. My wife tells me no every day. But who at some point says, yeah, hey, maybe that's interesting, I hadn't thought of it that way. And we talked about this earlier, that it's, and I, again, back to the mission of Embarc, it's really hard to start a company. And it's our confidence and our ego somewhat restricts our willingness to ask questions because we don't want to be posed with asking a question that is a quote unquote dumb question. Well, there's no such thing as a dumb question. There isn't. Period. End of the story. Nada. And I love to spend time with founders who all they need is an opportunity for someone to peer over the hill. And maybe I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, but I can tell you there are 3 possibilities. And let's plan for all 3, only because I've been through that before.
And so if we go to, let me just sort of go through in my head, like all of the reasons why you were a good fit for this role and you were our top pick for this role. There's the great parallels between what you experienced at Florida State and Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, just to clarify the states.
The original Miami.
Yes. And Embarc Collective, which is an education nonprofit. And talk to us about sort of where those parallels exist. How can you bring those experiences from more traditional higher ed institutions to a place where it's sort of like a DIY, learn as you go, I would say higher ed institution. We are not accredited.
Yeah. Wow, it's a good question. Look, when higher ed is broken, I mean, you read every article and they'll tell you the red schoolhouse model isn't working. When I made my way to Miami, we began a journey, and about 2 years after I got there, we threw away the textbooks and we did away with exams and quizzes. And my philosophy there is no one's ever read a book and learned how to start a company. The only way you can learn how to start a company is by getting your hands dirty. And so we completely redesigned our model at Miami around a learn by doing pedagogy, so to speak. Lots of similarities between what we do at Miami and what's going on here. So I can look at Miami and what we do in our entrepreneurship program. We had 600 or 700 students taking classes when I started. We have over 4,000 now. We have over 1,200 that participate in co-curricular programs. The last 10 graduating classes have launched 360 venture-backed companies that have raised almost $750 million. And so it works. And I think that what's going on, what we do in higher education, helping a young adult learn to do something. It's a skill, not a discipline. So you don't learn a skill by reading a book, right? No one ever learned how to shoot a basketball by reading a book on how to shoot a basketball. You stood 10 feet in front of the goal and you shoot. That's exactly what goes on here. And what you've done here, what the team does, what the coaches are doing is very much a learning model. You're providing that safety net, but you're also helping. When a founder tries something and she tries it and it doesn't work, when she's on her own, she doesn't really have anybody to turn to. I don't know why that didn't work. She has a vast amount of resources here at Embarc who can say, you know what, this is probably why that didn't work. Let's not do it again. Let's maybe try this.
So let's think about sort of what makes you what are the things that you're most excited to dig into once you actually are moved here and have credentials to enter the building without an escort?
Do I have to knock on the door? Yeah, okay. That's a good question. Well, Mike, who did the introduction, I don't know where Mike went to, but my excitement is getting to meet the 125 founders first and foremost. I'm really excited about being a part of the Tampa Bay community and coming back to Florida. It's the third time I've lived here. My wife is a native Floridian. She grew up in Perry, just up the road, and so we have a lot of friends and family. My grandkids, one of my daughters lives in Orlando, so our two grandkids live there, which is a big plus, particularly for my wife, who loves being a grandmother. So the things that attract me here, first and foremost, are getting an opportunity to meet with and work with the founders, getting to know them. Interesting to hear more about their business, but I'm really interested to hear more about each individual that is a part of the Embarc family. I'm also excited about the opportunity to, one of the things I think I do pretty well is I'm a pretty good connector. I just love to connect. And as Lakshmi, as you and I were talking about earlier, Embarc is in a centrality and a central position in the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Tampa Bay. But there are lots of organizations that have the potential to participate in a meaningful way in supporting startups. Big Co's, corporations, not only can provide talent in terms of expertise if you have a technology question or a product question, they can also be customers of the startups that are part of Embarc. So bringing them into the fold in a meaningful way is important to me. The universities have an obvious role. They bring talent that startups need, but they also bring IP and technology that has the potential to be commercialized. Higher ed has an abysmal record at converting, commercializing technology. 98% of the IP goes nowhere. So having talent that can actually take that intellectual property and do something is important as well. Institutional investors, not every startup needs money, but some do. And when they do, it's really nice to be able to turn to Embarc to help make the introductions, because anyone who's raised capital knows financial capital follows relational capital every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Warm introductions matter. And I think the extent to which I'm excited about the opportunity to meet and get to know the organizations in the community, I'm doubly excited to be able to figure out ways to connect and bring those organizations into the support role that Embarc plays so well today.
I also think that you've lived everywhere around the world, and you've seen a lot of different markets. One market that I'm sure that it's filled with flaws. It's not a perfect playbook, but I think what's happening in Cincinnati with how they are able to pair big companies with the startup world, there's lessons to be learned, and I'm sure there's other lessons from other places that you have lived. And so I think that infusion of here's what worked, but also here's what didn't work in some of those markets would be really fascinating to break.
Yeah, that's interesting. Cincinnati, there are a lot of parallels between Cincinnati and Tampa, with one big difference. Tampa, Jeff Bennick played a catalytic role in getting the whole process started, in his enthusiasm for Embarc to draw startups, to keep talent in the Tampa Bay area, as opposed to going to whatever, Atlanta or New York or San Francisco. Same thing happened in Cincinnati in the 2009, 2010, except it was the big co's. Cincinnati has Procter & Gamble World Headquarters, Kroger World Headquarters, Macy's World Headquarters, all these big co's. I had 9 Fortune 500s located within 15 square blocks. And the CEOs of those organizations got together and said, we got to do something to keep talent here. And Centrifuge, an similar Embarc organization, was born. And as opposed to individuals donating money to get started, it was the companies. And they did it for the same reason, took a different approach. I've seen a lot of what's happened in Cincinnati, and then also in other ecosystems like Chicago and San Francisco and Austin and Atlanta and New York. It's a collaborative, there is a strong requirement. No one can do it on their own. Embarc is awesome, but it still needs other organizations to weigh in other areas. And so I think the opportunity to connect and collaborate like other communities, other ecosystems are doing is really, really important as well.
I'm going to transition us to some of the questions that were submitted, and thanks for doing that. It actually makes our lives a lot easier. And so, Tim, this is a great question for you. So you're, I was a starter CEO back 7 years ago, and now I'm seasoned. You're already seasoned. You've led other organizations. As somebody who's led organizations, what's your process to level yourself up to meet the continual new needs of a growing organization?
Well, first and foremost is don't screw anything up. If it's working well, let's institutionalize it so we can expand on it. And I say that tongue in cheek, but I'm dead serious. When I took over Miami, it had been ranked in the top 10 for 8 or 9 years, and my first priority was not to screw anything up. At the same time, to help the organization institutionalize the things that are working, so that we continue to do what Embarc does well. I mean, I tell founders again, it's okay, it's fun to think about doing lots of things, but at the end of the day, you got to do one thing. You got to do it well, because your brand and your identity is crafted around that one problem you solve, the one thing you do. It gives you liberty to do other things. And so at the end of the day, coming to Embarc, it's very clear that Embarc is a leader in serving and supporting startups. Look at the data. You can argue all the emotions you want, but when at the end of the day, the data don't lie. And so my first priority is coming in, and I've learned in taking over from successful founders and leaders, is learn what they're doing that's working really well, continue to do it, refine it if there are ways to refine it, and then look for ways to leverage things that are being done. Here, I see the opportunity. Florida's the 3rd largest state. However, it's down the list in terms of startup activity. Not an indictment on Embarc by any means, but I see that on the flip side, it's a great opportunity. There's a tremendous opportunity here in Florida to create a vibrant startup ecosystem that attracts founders. Mike, you came from New York, didn't you? That attracts founders from across the nation and around the world to Tampa Bay or to Florida, that Embarc can be a critical player in providing that ongoing support.
And I think the infusion of your new energy into Embarc Collective, that's going to create really positive change. And I can say, you know, as somebody who put my entire existence into this organization over the last 7 years, it was really important for me to find somebody that could be a great custodian of everything that's working, but also see the potential of everything that we could achieve going forward. Tim, you are that person. So no pressure, but I believe in you. And I'm excited that I'm going to be able to stay on the board, stay a coach at Embarc Collective. I get to do the best parts of the job. And you can deal with everything else. But it's really exciting because that change is going to propel not only the organization, but everybody who gets to touch the organization. That means the team members who are a part of Embarc Collective. That means the members that are a part of Embarc Collective. That means the community that gets to touch Embarc Collective. All of that change, which can be uncomfortable at times, I think is that opportunity to actually accelerate opportunity. And so, you know, this gives you insight into why I have to rearrange a room every 3 months or so. Is like, I need change so that I can have a better seating configuration. It's the same thing with an organization. We got to change it up to make us move faster and be more effective in our collective goal, because Embarc Collective's mission is that we help Florida's startup talent build bold, thriving, scalable companies. We're on our way, but we haven't achieved our mission yet. Nonprofits go out of business when they achieve their mission. We still have more work to do. You're our person to help us get closer to achieving that end mission for this organization.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. So you're stuck with me until December 31st, but as of January 1st, we will be excited to welcome Tim Holcomb as the new CEO of Embarc Collective. So I appreciate everybody joining us today, and make sure that you stay in touch through the transition. I'm sure we'll have blind spots. I'm sure we'll navigate it together. Thank you for being a partner. This is my last, I actually think this is my last public event as CEO of Embarc Collective. So Thanks for going on this journey. Some of you remember back in 2018 when I said, imagine that all of this could exist. And you believed me. So thank you for the belief. Thank you for going on the ride. Thank you for the partnership. Because as you see, this is much bigger than one person. This is all about all of us and how our mission can help all of us do amazing things in this world. So I'm grateful for you. Thank you for taking a chance on Embarc Collective. Please stay very engaged and be kind to Tim as he navigates things, and he'll have a strategic plan on January 2nd.
Thank you so much, Tim and Lakshmi. You guys can stay on stage, or you're more than welcome to exit stage left. Up to you. Okay. So, okay, thank you. I just want to say thanks for sharing a glimpse into the collaboration that you guys have been the journey you guys have been going on through for the last couple of weeks. It's clear that there are so many parallels in your visions for Embarc and your thoughts on how we can further support our founders. And I won't get emotional, but it's been an honor to learn from you. And I'm excited to learn from you, Tim. So thank you. As you can tell, this community means a lot to me, as these two as well. But before we close out our morning, I just wanted to thank everybody here for joining us. And I wanted to give a small plug for our newsletter and all of the hard work Alina puts into it. If you scan the QR code, if you're not already signed up for our weekly collective, 10 a.m. on Wednesday mornings, we share all kinds of public events just like this one that are open to everybody to join, updates and news on a lot of our founders, and as well as some resources and deadlines and thoughts and POVs from our coaches. So it's definitely a great newsletter to keep on your radar. And Thank you again for coming. We'll open everything up for some more networking, and we've got some time, so mix and mingle. Thanks, guys.